Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's some serious. Where my girls at? We linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
And/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions.
Where my girls at? We're linking up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Well, great Friday, everybody. I know you're excited, right? It's the weekend. And so everybody say happy Friday. We're excited to be here. You are tuned into We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 9:10 a.m., the Superstation-WFDF. It is stationed right in Detroit, but it is heard all over the world. And we're excited to be hanging out with you each and every day, Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. Oh my goodness, we get a chance to hang out with you and talk about a whole lot. We bring the laughter, we bring the love, and we bring a lot of empowerment, encouragement. We talk about issues, this, that, and everything in between. And so on today, I see Gloria is up front and present out of Ellicott City. Sabrina is out somewhere looking for her new, well, I don't know if it's forever home, but looking for a new home. So we give her a shout out. Okay. And I believe Caterina is on the air only today, but we're excited to be here with you for another very powerful show. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a show that you absolutely want to tune into. This is going to be a show that you want to encourage, all the men that you know in your life to maybe listen in and even call in, because we are going to be talking about men. We're going to be talking about father, leaving a legacy. And we have an amazing guest that is with us on today. Elam B. King is our guest on today. And I'm so excited that he is going to be sharing with us all about his brand new book. Can you get excited? It is going to be an exciting conversation about his book. And he's going to be talking about the Understanding a Man and Memoirs of a Father to His Son. And if you're like me, you can never talk about fathers and sons and the importance of that when you look at the world. And you, a couple days ago, we talked about the incarceration rate, and we talked about Juneteenth and the new slavery is incarceration. But I will say that if you were to go into the penal system and look at many of the young men that are in there, and you ask them, was their father in their life? I'm sure many of them would say that they weren't. So we just want to lean into this conversation and talk about fathers and sons. And I'm excited about our guest and what he will be sharing with us on today. Well, you know what? There's a lot in the news, but you know what? I'm your host, Crisette Ellis, and I'm excited, you guys, because I am coming to you live from Las Vegas. I know, no, I am not on the gambling circuit. Do not get that rumor started, because I know 2 times in Vegas, in less than a month. But I am sitting here at the Wynn Hotel, and I wish I could just turn my laptop so that you could see the beautiful view of this 18-hole golf course that's right out in front of us. And of course, when we checked into the hotel, the lady said, what view do you want? Do you want the view of the Strip or the view of the golf course? Well, my husband Chuck spoke right up, the golf course. I said, okay, calm down. We'll go with the golf course. But it is absolutely a gorgeous golf course, which he is definitely, Gloria, going to play on Saturday.
He's
So
probably there now, for real. Okay, Saturday.
Okay, exactly. He's
Yeah.
excited about that. And so we are here to celebrate with Angela Winbush. Angela Winbush. She is getting married, and we are so excited. She's getting married on Sunday, starting a new chapter in her life. So it's all about love. It's about celebrating the nuptials, the vows that they're going to be taking, and that's going to be exciting. But I know. So that's the good part. That's the good news. But it's a lot going on in the country. We got in the wee hours in the morning today, so I have not turned on the news. But of course, a lot of stuff has been jumping up on my phone. So Gloria, right now, I think Caterina is on the radio. Talk about the Supreme Court. Oh my goodness, Roe versus Wade. What's going on with that?
When I tell you, I believe that the country feels like a huge slap has come across many of our faces, like a huge, even though we got the leak that the decision was going to come down, even though they talked about it for a very long time, it feels like a huge slap across our face. And you guys, I mean, it's an emotional thing. It's a very emotional thing. It's another very divisive, front for the country. It feels so bad. Someone was telling me that we are the only country in the world where there is a constitutional ruling that controls your body parts. I never thought about it like that. And then I heard another number that said, this is going to take maternity. What is it when you die from maternity? I know there's a term for it, but when you don't make it, it's going to go up by 20%. 20% of the death because of carrying a baby is going to go up. I mean, these numbers are just blowing my mind. They really, truly are blowing my mind. And it's super sad because there's so much that's going on. And the gun reform was passed. But not
Gloria,
passed.
talk about that a little bit. I didn't get a chance to read the full article, and I know that I believe Caterina is on the line. I want to know a little bit about that because I think it stem from out of California, where they have even made it easier to carry openly your weapons.
Right.
And so while we are experiencing more mass shooting than any other country, which is, if they cannot equate allowing people to get guns at 18 years old, if they cannot see how doing a background check and waiting 24 to 48 hours to make sure this person is mentally stable, if they can't take the time and do a comparison of what other countries are doing and why their rate is so much lower than our rate, it's like, come on. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I know it is all fueled by the mighty dollar. That is, when you uncover all the other stuff and the politics of it, it all boils down to money.
Right. Yeah, D. Renee said something about New York, something that's heavy about New York, because what's very challenging about this is that the state made a decision, and then this could reverse the decision that the state made. The state was putting up really harder, restrictions. And then this decision that came down might takes away the power that the state has to put things on. So there's a lot going on. And they said that it's gone through. But bottom line is, it's easier to walk around with a gun. And therefore, it's easier to defend yourself, meaning you can lie and say you're defending yourself and people can get hurt. There's an increased maternal mortality. Thank you, Bernadetta. Bernetta, that's how I say it. Okay, sorry. Yes, it's really, really sad. So we're going backwards in so many ways and more dangerous in so many ways. And, and then you hear different things. And when I woke up this morning, I was determined to be happy and have a great mood. And because I am so grateful about so many things, but you get so frustrated about so many things. So I'm glad you're at a wedding. Let me tell you something. I'm glad you're at the wedding. Last week, Katrina was at a wedding. This week, you're at a wedding. And it just is joy when you're at a wedding. Just so
Right.
much happiness when you're at a wedding. So much love when you're on a wedding. So many smiles when you're at a wedding. Everybody's got cute pictures. The little kids look real cute in the wedding. The bride looks cute. I mean, I want to hear all about the wedding stuff for sure. But really, it's a tough time out here. It's a very tough time right now.
It really is. And it is absolutely a time that we have to stay woke. Of course, we know there are a lot of elections that are going on around the country. August is a big election month. So we just need to, really do our due diligence and looking into the candidates and what their stance are on these various issues. Caterina, are you on the line?
I am, and I see both of you guys, and Lady Crisette, you're giving a shoulder. I see it. Yes, fabulous and amazing. Yes, it is a blessing to be on, and I'm going to be real brief because I'm looking forward to hearing from our guests today. But, Chris, we talk about this. As Christians, we understand the church's position, and we understand that piece. But we also understand the politics of this. And I just, it's a sad day when people use, try to act like they're standing on a Christian platform, but there's so much politics under it that really has nothing to do with the faith. And so I said that I want to do a show on white nationalism. I mean, today they were talking about, just the importance. There are more Caucasians that get abortions than any other. And so they were relating it to the importance of white nationalists not wanting abortions as another effort to make sure that they are not decreased in numbers, because brown people, there are going to be more brown people in America than there will be non-brown people. And so there's so many politics behind it. It's so clear, we understand what the motivation is behind the guns and behind and it's just not a pure motivation. There's a lot going on, and it puts other rights in jeopardy. So this whole thing, it's just ugly. It's ugly.
Right.
So,
and you know what, Katrina, it is. And it's going to be interesting.
How, Caucasian, white, suburban moms and women, who have, definitely have their opinion about being able to make decisions about their own bodies. It's going to be interesting to see how they vote on this issue. So again, everything is not just, on the surface, it looked like it's one thing, but baby, when you start taking off the layers, you'll see at the bottom of it what the real issue is. So it's a lot going on, but we want to go ahead and move into our topic for today and introduce our guests. And so I want to bring to the stage, and to those of you that are listening today, Mr. Elam B. King. Bring him to the stage. We're excited to talk about his brand new book, Understanding a Man, Memoirs from a Father to His Son. Come on, Jaylen, let's give him a big hand. Yeah. We are excited to welcome you on today. And so, you guys, I'm just going to read just a snippet of his bio. It is extensive. And then I'm going to let him brag on himself and talk a little bit about, who he is and why he decided to take on this project. So Elam King, he's a Hackensack, New Jersey native. He's a profound author, relationship coach, and exhilarating speaker. After receiving a Bachelor of Science in Marketing from Hampton University, he went on to receive his MBA in Project Management and an MBA in Marketing. I need some water, I'm sorry. He released his manual in November of 2017 entitled Understanding a Man, Empowering Women with Tools for Lasting Relationships. Now, if we just stop there, that's a lot in and of itself. And of course, we're coming up to our very first break. So when we come back, Elam, I'm going to throw it to you. I want you to talk a little bit more about who you are, why this book, and why is it so important that men play such a significant role in their son's life. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. We're going to take this break and then we're coming right back. And our guest today is Elam King, and we're excited to hear him talk about his brand new book. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. We are back. And you're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. And I'm so excited. Had to take some water, know where that little coughing spell came from. But we're excited to be back with our guest, Elam B. King, and he's going to talk to us. Yes, thank you, Jalen. He's going to talk to us about his new book, Understanding a Man, Memoirs from a Father to His Son. And so I just love everything, everything about that title. And so, Elam, talk to us a little bit about who you are. I know that you are a relationship coach, and we absolutely need those kind of people in our lives for sure. When you think of all the dysfunction and you think of all the broken families and divorce rate, and the list goes on and on. So just talk to us a little bit about who you are and how you got started in that field.
Yes. Great. Woo!
Elam Kings, located here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I would say the blessing of the introduction of how I got started. Back in 2015, it was just a walk that somebody, a good friend of mine, Adrienne Bell, said to me. We were talking. She said, Elam, you need to write a book. And I was like, write a book on what? You know, I'm the guy that did bad in his marriage. Like, nobody wants to hear about me. And so she was just like, no, Elam, you're the exact person that people want to hear from. And so was at an event. Very first event I had ever been to was on a panel, and the room was maybe about 100 women in the room. The average age was maybe about 45, and so they were just asking us a bunch of questions. The name of the segment was called Understanding the Mind of a Man. And so at the end of that segment, they all kept asking questions, and I was just like, you know what? I don't think women really understand the way men think. And so having been a man at that point, early 40s, I guess, I was just like, you know, we don't talk a lot. And so took that concept, decided to move forward with a book coach, and so that was my first book, Understanding a Man, Empowering Women with Empowering Women with Tools for Lasting Relationships. So I interviewed 24 men about various topics of the heart, things that if they have what would they want her to know, because we're not out here speaking, so I know that. And so that began a journey into a space that I had no idea I was going to be inside of, that I absolutely love, such a blessing. Not only panel discussions, but also a relationship coach as well, so working with clients, whether they're married, whether they're single, pre-marriage, which is a space that I absolutely love. I have a pre-marriage course as well called AreWeReadyYetCoach.com, because there's a lot of us that are not even recognizing that the challenges that I'm noticing are starting on the pre-marriage space. And so shifting forward, after being a husband of a school teacher, and also I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, so I'm also involved in the community a lot. And so working with Guide Right, our young men, I also saw some gaps there as well. So I said, well, I wanted to talk to the ladies first. Okay, maybe I'll talk to the young men. And so interviewed 24 men during COVID, just different topics. If they had to go back and speak to their younger self, of course, when we get older, we always say, if I had known then what I know now, right? Take that brain and pass it down so that somebody else can have some advantages there. And so the book is a combination of text and videos. So whereas inside of each chapter, not only will they be able to read, but they're also going to be able to click on a QR code and see the videos of the men that were speaking as well. So
Wow.
that's very
That's
exciting.
powerful. Yes, yes. So, Elam, I mean, this is so good. I mean, I can't wait to get that book. So, talk to us. Yes.
Can I just ask him this one quick question, Ian?
Sure.
Can you tell me how did you decide to do 24 men? Was it something about that? Did you want more? Did you want less? What made that happen?
It's a little secret, but I do talk about it sometimes. So, long story short.
We got issues.
Yeah, I got issues. Okay, let me get it on there. So, the elevated version is, my parents just made 50 years of marriage yesterday, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? So, growing up, my parents were absolutely amazing. However, there's a moment of transparency to whereas when my dad was younger, he was very, very good at basketball, like really, really good. Headed to college, whatever gets me to college. And so when one of the recruiters came to his home, he got a little nervous and he kind of like ran away from him. And so, if I look at that piece, my dad, okay, let me just fast forward. My dad's number when he was playing basketball was 24. When we were growing up, we lived at 24 Ross Avenue in Hackensack, right? And his birthday is on the 24th as well. So when I went to go write my first book, I was very, very scared because I was just like, I don't even like English. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, well, what are you? People pushing me to write a book, and I was very scared. But fortunately, I had started a journey about 5 or 6 years earlier of just trusting God a little bit more and leaning not into my own understanding and really saying, okay, you know what? You want me to lean on you? And I literally inside this book, at every single chapter, those 15 chapters, I would pray before each chapter and say, I don't know what you want me to say, right? And so I would kind of zone out and come back, and there would be another chapter. And I did that 15 times. And so the 24 represents the fear that I had going into something. So I had to trust God. So I kept that number. So as I continue forward, I just stay in that space just to pay homage to just moving forward on something and really having to trust God when you don't know what you're doing.
That's awesome. Wow, very awesome.
Yeah, that is so, and it's just amazing how sometimes a number will present itself over and over and over in your life, and you're like, okay, it's something to that. So I love that you explained the reason you chose 24. So I know we're going to get into your book, but I want you to talk a little bit about, having these conversations with the men and with the women. What if you were going to give us the top 3 or 5 things that men would want women to know, or the top things that men said that if they could go back in time and talk to their younger selves, what would they say?
It's interesting that you said that. Actually is chapter 13, chapter 14, where I asked the men if they had to go back and speak to their younger selves, what exactly would they say to themselves or whatever. And so, I think one of the first things that we walk into is having a level of understanding and maturity of ourselves. And so I think that one of the downfalls that we as men have is that we enter into relationships with someone else before we enter into relationships with ourselves. The number one thing that does not show up inside of the average relationship is yourself. What you do is you go and you attach yourself to somebody else's expectations, and you don't even have your own. And the same thing with your level of spirituality as well. So, just having a relationship with yourself. Then number 2, once you look at that, I'd say, is what is your direction? Where are you going to go? In order for us as men to be able to stand up and lead a family, lead a wife, even lead a girlfriend, we have to have what our direction and what our purpose is. And so being able to know what that is and then be able to give that information over to somebody else and then to be able to lead inside of that. I also would attach to that is understanding the level of love that you have for yourself. And I always like to go into kind of like the love languages because, I think that it's so simple and so important. If we just knew what our love language was, how to love ourselves, then we will be able to share with somebody else, how we would be able to share with, train, walk with, walk next to somebody else and share with them how they can love us. So I think that that's super important. And I think that, I would actually place after that understanding who you are dealing with. And just let me put that in. Because I'm in the relationship space, people always ask me, what's the one thing that men want, right? I always get that question. And I always try to say the one thing that men want is what that man wants, right? And so if you figure out what that man wants, then that's what your relationship is, right? Understanding that and where that comes from is probably the next part of being able to understand that being in counsel is super important. Even individuals that have joined this evening and watching your show, and I've watched you guys show over some time, and so even people being able to, this is a counseling session for some people, right? And it says man remains in counsel, and for far too long inside of our community, if we seek counsel, if we ask for help, it's even us as men, we've been looking upon it as it is a weakness, and that's what we were taught. So we have to unlearn that area and then relearn. So I would just say, being in mentorship and counsel, I know that we know about it when we play a sport, and I know that we get a real estate broker when we're going to go buy a house, and maybe we might even get a recruiter when we're going to go get a job. But when we sign up for the biggest business, emotional, and financial situation that we will ever be in, which is being in a marriage and moving forward from a relationship perspective, we don't want to be in counsel. So I think that just knowing that you have to be in counsel.
That right there, we need to spend a minute on. That right there, we need right in the minute on. The piece that you said is that we will invest in counseling on everything else that we deem to be important. And for some reason, we think that we should know everything about this without counseling.
Wow.
The way you just said that is powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is so eye-opening. So we're going to go to our break, and when we come back, we want you to delve a little bit more into your book. I know that the girlfriends have some questions that they want to ask, and we want you to call in and be a part of this conversation. Whether you have a question or a comment, call us at 313-778-7600. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. We'll be right back.
back. We're back. You're listening to We Got Issues on 9:10 a.m. with the Force of Friendship. And our guest today is Elam B, and he's going to be talking to us. And we are talking about his book, Understanding a Man, Memoirs from a Father to His Son. So we want to delve a little bit more into your book. But before we do that, we have a couple of callers. We're going to go to Marathon. Marathon, are you there?
Yes, how you doing, First Lady?
Doing good, Marathon. Thank you for calling. Our super fan. What's up?
The book sounds good. I was wondering, can it apply to girls? I have two daughters that I'm estranged from, and I'm trying to reach out. I've been writing them. I've been trying to call, but it's hard. I'm a man living with being bipolar, and that has come into play.
Elam?
Oh, okay. I thought I got muted. All right. So can you guys hear me? Good.
Yes.
Okay. So this book is actually okay. So the first book, Understanding a Man, Empowering Women with Tools for Lasting Relationships. Absolutely. I don't care if you're 13 or whether you're 30 or whether you're 60 or whether you're 70. That book applies for women just across the board to give them it's 15 different chapters of information. Whether we're talking about Miss Independent, whether we're talking about nagging, whether we're talking about understanding about dating and a whole host of information. So I'd say at least from teenager forward, it's a proper preparation for marriage, for being in a relationship. Absolutely. And that's why I call it, really, I don't call it a book. I call it a manual because each chapter actually acts independently to whereas you could just open the book. I'm not going to say it's like the Bible, but you just open it up and you can find something right there that's good for you. This is the earthly Bible for relationships. That's what it is.
Okay. I like the way you
myself, guys. I just wanted to say,
Listen, we don't want to see a poof and you're no longer right.
So I hope that answers your question.
Marathon, thank you so much for calling and always, leaning into our conversation. So have a great day. Thank you, Marathon.
Thank you. Now.
All right, and we're going to go to our next caller. Grace, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening. I would like to know, ladies, really quick, are you changing your slot time or are you going off the air?
Neither.
Neither?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on from that. It was just something that was heard. Okay. I don't know I'm going to take a title. The title is very alluring, and you chose a great title to bring people in. Hopefully the content actually overshines the title. But you got me with the title. You definitely do. And I know this show is probably pre-done. You already thought the topic you were going to do. But what is going on today? I don't know if that intensifies his book or kind of minimizes his book or his manual, what's going on today about what the decision Roe versus Wade, what came down. So I'm going to say that. No shoes, no shirt, no service, no condom, no vasectomy. The vagina is shut down until we get men on our side about what's going on. This is truly much more than just what women like. This is the male species, and his role contributing to pregnancy needs to be addressed also too, because he plays a role in it, a strong role in it. But it is absolutely beat up on the woman. So the vagina needs to be shut down until we get our men to rise up and speak about what is happening to rights. It's just not acceptable. But I'm going to check out your book, Mr. And many blessings to you.
Well, can I address that really quickly? I like that she said that we do need to get a little bit more involved. And so let me just share with you. It's interesting that this past Father's Day, right? I was actually meeting with about 15 men yesterday. And I said that, did you notice, guys, this year that you got a lot more men sharing with you, saying Happy Father's Day to you? We were just meeting for the first time. I say it was 15 guys, 12 of them I didn't even know, right? And all the guys around the table said, you know what? Absolutely. And so I said to them, I think that part of the reason why is because the value that's placed on men these days is not as high as it should be. Over the past 3 weeks, I only saw one Father's Day commercial, and that was on Pandora. All right. And I asked Father's Day commercials, have you seen? And they were just like, yo, we haven't seen that many. Father's Day is also held behind Halloween. So people would rather be ghouls and goblins than to spend money on Halloween. We're like the 11th holiday. We're after Valentine's Day. We're after Easter. Mother's Day is number 2. So the value that has been placed, and let's just really look at this, at the subculture that exists here across the doesn't matter whether you're man or woman, the subculture that's placed on men is of lesser value than it is for women. And so that's the reason why, a part of the reason why, that we do go out here and we do sow our seeds the way that we should not, because from day one, you've always been told to what? Keep it to yourself. You know, this is your beautiful flower and things of that nature. So, you know, your virginity and all that. And so you're taught to hold on and be the right selector. We're taught to more just go out and do that, right? So I think this is a little bit bigger than us just saying until men do this, until our culture evolves to value men the same way that women are valued. And then watch this, us as men, we do have a high level of accountability of not having the level of value on ourselves that we should. That was one of the reasons why that I did write this book, is because from day one of the things that's really big with us, and this is a whole chapter in my book, it's about, you know, how do men really feel about respect? You know, it's not about being the sneakers and the cars. What do men really value? How do men really respect each other? Because at the baseline of a man is respect. At the baseline of a woman is love, right? So in that chapter, we try to share with the men what's really respectful is when you go out here and when you try as much as possible and you fail and you try and you fail and you try and you keep on banging your head and you keep going. It's not the failures that you need to be scared of. It's not the failures that should pull you back. Keep going. Right? Understanding your spirituality, being again inside of counsel. So there's a rebuild that has to happen across the board. Yes, us as men need to, but women have a role inside of that as well, because you have to understand, even inside of emotions, which is another entire chapter. And Lady Crisette, just give me a moment because I have to talk about this, because when it comes to our emotions, we have to even understand single moms right now, when you're raising your sons and they get a little sensitive, whatever case it be, what do you say? Right? Stop acting like a what? Girl, right? Stop, don't cry, you know, be strong. And I understand where that value comes from. What do? You get a man to suppress his emotions, right? So then when he meets you and he loves you, he doesn't know what this emotion thing looks like. And now you know, of course your stuff turns into sunshine. So you think that he's automatically supposed to emote to you. No, he's just gone through an entire life of suppressing those. So this is where we would need you to kind of step in and be able to have him evolve his strength and his emotion. Right. So it's a bigger picture than just saying men stand up, women shut down vaginas. That's not going to do nothing. You know, there's across the board that we have some evolution that we need to do. And then we can really attack the issues that we're kind of talking about today. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. When I say you have just said a whole lot in the few minutes that you talk, I mean, it was almost like a aha moment. You know, I can so hear even, and men say it to their sons too, you know, we got to toughen you up. We got to, you know, when, you know, as a parent, you remember when your children fell and they got up and they're crying and mothers take them and they nurture them. Oh, it's okay. And father sees that like, stop. You know, he's got to learn to fall and get up.
I'm guilty of it.
Yeah,
I did this. I was raised this way. My father was raised this way. All of that. And so am I saying that we need to move from 10 to 1 and we just have extra, you know, and some unintelligence that exists there? No, there's a word that I want people to remember. 2 words. Okay. Emotional intelligence. This is an area that men need to walk into. This is an area that women need to walk into so that we understand the balance that, you know, that saying, I love you, that hugging, you know, that men to their sons, you know, my dad didn't do that much for me, but I love him. Right. But I learned differently when it came to my son. He probably heard I love you more in a week than I heard it in my first 18 years of life. And that's where most of if you're a baby boomer or an X or a Y, you're right with me. You didn't hear I love you that much. You didn't. That's the way we were raised, right? But now we have to understand that my son, you know, I love you, like I said, more this week than, you know, my life with my dad. So you have to understand that. But now, guess what? My dad understands.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I love you. I'm proud of you. All those kudos versus that's just what you're supposed to do. And we were just like, oh, okay. So we were taught to shut down our emotion. You have to understand how huge that is. So that means that even when we get into marriages, we don't even understand the way we feel because we've never really. I mean, if I'm sensitive, I'm a punk. If that means she's trying to change me, she's trying to control me. Let me lash back out. Boom. Now you got and because of the lack of intelligence of our emotion, it's now spewed into, and it's kind of like anger turned inside out. The first thing that men do on average when we don't understand something emotionally, we rage, reason, or run, right? Why do you think men run? Because they don't understand it. Why do you think they get mad? Because they never understood it. Right. So, and you could say just because he's 50, no, these clients sit in my office. Right. And I'm talking to the 50s, and my average customer, my average client is above 45. And guess what? Wow. There's a reconditioning, there's an unlearn and relearn that has to happen. And here you are sitting on 15, 20 years thinking that he should just know you and he should just understand and he should just communicate. No.
Elam, oh my gosh, when I tell you, you know, when Gloria and me start doing the Miss Silly Rock from The Color Purple,
right.
We are laying it down. This conversation is so rich. We want you to continue in that mode. When we come back, we're going to take this break. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. Our guest today is Elam King, and he is talking about his book, Understanding a Man, Memoirs of a Father to a Son. We're excited about it. We'll be right back after this break. All right, we are back. And we are here with the Force of Friendship. And our guest today is Dr. I made you a doctor. We're here with Elam King. Yeah, you know what? You're
I'll
talking
take it.
like a doctor, okay?
Right.
I'll take it.
Clear. With all the information that you're giving to us today, it absolutely sounds like you done went to 5-6 colleges, got a MD, and all of that. So we are just thoroughly enjoying this conversation. He is the author of Understanding a Man, Memoirs from a Father to His Son. Before we go back, because I know the girlfriends have questions, we have a caller on the line. We're going to the caller, and then we're going to go to the questions. Robert, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Terry Slade, Gloria, and Elam. Good. Thank you for having me. But I did want to say that, that is, when you talked about how we as men, we suppress our emotions, and to overcome that is truly a feat. And so for those who do overcome that challenge of suppressing their emotions, which I'm speaking for myself, I've done it, and you divulge or decide to share your emotions, or tap into your emotions, and you share them, and they're not cherished or received. For brothers who have encountered that and decided, like, look, I'm not going to be vulnerable anymore, what advice would you have for those who have made a decision to do that, to revert back to suppressing their emotions?
Well, it depends, right? If you're looking to just live a life by yourself, and not be inside of a relationship with a woman, then that's something that you want to do. That's just, if that's what makes you feel comfortable. But I need men to understand, those that want to be in a relationship, understand that communication is a requirement just across the board. You have to understand that, number one, and I talk about this actually in my new manual, because first of all, of course, men have testosterone, women have estrogen. Well, I share inside of chapter 5, particularly from a hormonal perspective, and helping men to understand how their hormones actually affect their levels of communication. I share with it just for men to know that estrogen, which obviously we know women have a higher level of estrogen. Estrogen actually makes a woman want to collaborate, communicate, right? That's why you always have a lot more girls trips. You actually have a lot more girls moments. You don't see when men have a bad day, they sit on the bed with their homeboy and just have a glass of wine and just kind of watch TV, right? We don't do that.
Right.
Okay? Understand the reason why, beyond the man code, that violation that exists there, is because testosterone has us more in a dominant role, right? And so just even your hormones dictate that. Then you have the subculture that pushes it as well. So you have a subculture that's constantly pushing it one way. So understand that if you're going to be in a relationship with a woman, you're going to have to communicate. And then I would say that step one of that, one of the best ways of doing that is to seek counsel. Get a mentor, speak with your pastor, or visit with your local benefits that you have for your job, and get a counselor that way. That person can allow you to begin to open and understand, because there's an unpacking. It's not like I'm gonna just hook up with my boy and now I'm just gonna start talking. Like, locker room talk moments are a lot different than somebody unpacking what is the reason why that it was suppressed, so that you can turn around and move forward. So it's the necessary due diligence that needs to be done. But step one, I would say, is visit with somebody else and begin to be in counsel. And for those, I want to say really quickly that this is the season that people are getting married, and I talk about this in my pre-marriage course.
Right.
The best man and the maid of honor actually have a responsibility. They're not just supposed to just be there, right? The responsibility is no differently than you building a business. Of course, you have your pastor, which is your counsel, but you also have your board of directors, which is your best man and maid of honor. And those are two people, because once you become married, right, for those that might even be married and you're trying to come out, so just to your question, you're trying to increase that level of understanding and communication. Your best man, your maid of honor, are actually supposed to be the counsel for you inside of your marriage, that you can go and outpour and just let them know what's going on, because at that point you can't go tell mommy and daddy and all that and your bestie and all that, because you're inside of a covenant at that moment. So If you don't have that person, I would ask you to, from those of you who are believers, I would ask you to ask God, who can he reveal that's around you that you can be able to seek? What resource can he send to you in that capacity as well? And it'll be sent.
Wow, that's so powerful. Gloria and then Caterina.
Okay. I want to know, I got so many questions, but when you said that a man needs to know the direction that he wants to go in before he goes into a relationship, he needs to know for himself the direction. What direction beyond professional direction? Can you break that down so that I understand what you're saying when you say what direction he wants in that relationship?
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this in here really quickly. I always the direction is more than just job, right? It's where do you want to live? How are you going to raise your children from a spirituality perspective? What is your requirement from a love language perspective? What are your non-negotiables? What's your vision 1, 3, 5, and 10 years down the road? Where are you going to go, right? And then, even what is the direction of just coming back and having meetings? And watch this. I like to say that, when COVID first hit, right? Let's just look at the work direction really quickly, Gloria. When COVID first hit, there were companies whose expenses went up and their revenues went down, right? What do you think that those businesses did? Do you think that they waited, right, and just kind of rode it out, right? No, what the wise ones, what they do, they called a meeting, right? And they came together and they looked at how to increase the revenues, how to reduce those expenses, right? So my question to you would be, or just a statement here from a vision perspective, how do you outline just even the fact of where you're going and how you're meeting a weekly or monthly of the emotional, right? The experiences, right? The spiritual, right? The intellectual, right? The emotional, which all of those are intimacies. People only think about physical intimacy, but there's 4 other intimacies that actually exist there. So it's not just where you're going from a career perspective. It's the whole spectrum of even that involves emotion and communication, spirituality, children, mapping that out.
You know what? I can't believe that the music is playing. So before we're totally off the air, please tell everybody where they can get your book.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you guys, having me on today. Of course, you can find me at elambking.com for all of the, and also follow me at elambking.com. Elam B King on all social media platforms.
Okay. And just know, Elam, we are definitely having you back for part 2. We need part 2, part 3, part 4. This was so powerful, you guys. You've been listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. Have a super fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.